Hello, it's me, and I've once again pulled this guy off the shelf in order to give it another go. So among the most requested redos that I've had is this puzzle over here. And the reason why I've been hesitant to do it is because you shouldn't let all this fool you. Or this fool you. It seems like it moves really, really well. And as long as it's moving in a way that it likes, it will. But this is a horribly put together and horribly moving puzzle. Nice challenge, but very difficult to navigate around. It pops on you, it gets stuck. This little circle thing moves around. But in the spirit of trying to fulfill the requests of the viewers, I will do it. And I'm going to try to do it in a way that's a little bit more clear. I think there are some assumptions made that previous techniques are known and previous techniques of how to solve a square one puzzle. So I'm going to go at it again, but try to be a little bit more clear with certain aspects of the solve. Now, I do have one requirement before this. This is not a self-contained tutorial. You're going to have to take a look at the tutorial on how to do the square 3x3x2 puzzle, which I'll post a link here, or maybe here, or here, or here, or somewhere in the descriptions. But I want you to look at that first, because if you look at that, you'll probably be able to solve this anyway. But if not, I go over a lot of the different strategies, and I'm not going to do it again with this one. This, in some ways, you can think of this as a part 2. I talk about the concepts of priming the puzzle. I talk about the use of using cuboid strategy in certain arenas. So what I'm going to be doing is taking what I described in that tutorial and carrying it over to this puzzle. So if you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and watch it. It's okay. I'll wait for you. Did you see it yet? Okay. So in that, you learned how to solve a 3x3x2 square one and all the terminology and the strategies therein. I described how to do certain algorithms with a 3x3x2, cuboid algorithms to guide you through it. We're going to be building off of that. Really all this is this is a 3x3x2, but in 2 different layers, these two and these two. So I'm just going to go through those strategies as applied to this puzzle. The only difficulty is how to make it to where the priming is correct so that you don't lose your square shape once you get it. Now, before I start, I think what I need to do, because among the hardest parts are navigating your way through these 2 layers here when you don't have the top and the bottom to guide you. So that's a little difficult because you have to kind of count where you're at and decide where things are supposed to be. Here it's easy to find where things are supposed to be because you've got the colors here and the colors here. So if I have a white one here, I know it belongs over here. I don't have the top or the bottom colors to guide me. So what that means is I have to use other things to guide me. I have to look at the actual colors themselves or count the number of colors. That's the difficulty with this. So that's the problem that you're going to run into. So because of that, the process of getting it back to a cube form, I don't think I really specified enough. So I'm going to show you how to do that again, but I'm going to use this guy only because it's so much easier to scramble. This is your classic square one puzzle, and notice that oriented with the top and this at the bottom, we have the slice here, the one slice that you can do our moves from, pointing towards the left, and that's generally how I like to prime things. Generally I'm going to point this towards the left as well because that'll most closely resemble what we did over here. But I'm going to scramble this up and we're going to go through a little bit more detail of how to get back to the square form. So out of square form, you go. Okay, so we're going to kind of go through that, but let's scramble this guy first. So once again, we're going to go ahead and just kind of do various scrambles here and here. Then we can do our 180-degree scramble like so. So what I'm going to do is just continue to make this hopelessly and completely gone, and you're going to see why this is such a difficult puzzle to use, because it's a difficult puzzle to scramble. The square one solve is actually fairly straightforward once you get it, but I'm actually dealing right now with 2 layers that I'm scrambling at the same time. So scramble here, and I want you to bear in mind all of the principles. So you can see that already I'm starting to get a little skewed with how I can move this. You see that this is a corner here. See if we can't move it here. Should this move? Nope. So even the process of scrambling is a little cumbersome. This and this. Okay, well, why sit through that? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and scramble this. Abracadabra. Okay, so we've got this scrambled up pretty well. So what I'm going to do is the first step is, of course, getting it back to the cube form, but let's go through a little bit more finesse with that. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to make it to where you have all of the corners in one level and all the edges in another level. Now you're going to fit all the edges in one with a couple of corners there, then all the corners in another level. Because when you do that, you're going to be able to do a pattern to get it back to the cube form. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Say this is all filled, so it looks something like a flower, and the one where you have all the edges in with just two corners is going to look something like a fish with a fishtail. So other characteristics is each one of these petals, each one of these corners moves in 30-degree increments, but so does two edges. So two edges together is equivalent to one corner. So if you have a side that's filled with even numbered edges, 2, 4, together, then you can move it all around in 30-degree increments, which will make it easier. So this 30 degrees here will turn here, but if you have an odd number one, then you're going to end up with that in the middle, so we can't turn from here. So it's just easier to do if we can. What you're going to want to do is try to pair as many of these corners up as possible. And if you can get it to where you have 5 corners, then you can actually create what I would call the fishtail. For example, this is a fishtail. A fishtail is where you have 2 corners and 2 edges. So it kind of looks like the tail of a fish. When you have that, you have more freedom to kind of go back and forth and maybe bind 2 odd ones to some other odd ones to make an even one. So I've got a fishtail over here, but before I utilize that, what I want to do is get more of these together. So we're going to try to fill these up as much as possible before we start isolating fishtails and things like that. So what I want to do is say move these 2 up to here, if we can. So you can see that I can't really move beyond this. That's where this fishtail comes in. So let's see if we can't move maybe this up to there. This is kind of blocked over here. So it moves from this angle. So let's see if we can't line it up here. So I'm going to move this down, which is fine. It creates 4 over here, gives me my little quote fishtail over here, and then I'm going to move it off to the side. Now, the next thing that I'm going to want to do, the good news with this is I've got 4, which means I can move this in 30-degree increments. Here, here, here. If I put 5 in a row, then I can create another fishtail, and I can create it out of these 2. Ignore these 2. I'm not going to pair these up. This is a standalone fishtail, but I'm going to take this angle over here, which is among the tougher to deal with. This one is going to go in to make 4 of these. And you can see how I can convert this into a fishtail. So I'm going to move this up here, so now I have 5. When I have 5, I can now separate this out. And here's another fishtail over here. And when I do that, the game is done, because now I can take this and match it up to this fishtail to create 2 here and 2 here. And now I have an even number over here. So when I have this, I can easily make 30-degree turns, and with each 30-degree turn, I'm able to move it. So now with this up here, I can move it into this, like so. And now I can make 30-degree turns up to here, and now I can take this guy and move it in as well. Kersplat. So this is what I've got. Now in order to move this back down and create my cube form, I'm going to slice it down the middle over here. Now again, this was all discussed with the previous tutorials on Square Ones, so I assume you know this, but then we line it up right, and then move it like so. Now you're going to start getting symmetric pieces. This is going to come to face you, right slice down in the middle. This is going to go over to face that as well. Go ahead and turn and you get these butterflies. One is at the end and the other is at the length over here. Go over here and you have yourself a shield. Now the next move with a shield, if I move it like this so that it's lined up in the same direction, I'll get my square. Now if I don't like how it's lined up with this, you see that the middle isn't lined up. After I get my square, then I'm going to do what's called a adjacent edge swap. If you're not sure what that is, look at the previous tutorial on the 3x3x2. But if I want to make this right, I just prime it down over here. I went over what priming is. You can prime the top or prime the bottom. The reason why you're priming is so that every time you do a 2R, you'll get back to the square form. So in any case, you can prime it and then you're back over here. So let's apply this to these guys. Now we're going to start off with the easier one to visualize, which will be the top and the bottom. And all I have to worry about with the middle layer is that it can turn. So here's 3 over here, and I've got a fishtail here, as you can see. That's what this is, two edges and 2 corners. And I've got these 2 over here as well. And I've got 2 over here. So if I position this just right, what I can do is try to take this out by turning this down. And I'm going to try to line up the centers here, the center pieces here, so that they actually can make a turn. This one is, well, who knows what that one is. But anyway, line it up so that it can make a turn. And what I want to do is I want to save this over here. This is the difficult part of this puzzle, is to find ways. See, this isn't going to work over here, so we'll keep going once more. And this is going to work over here. So I'm ignoring these 2. I just want it to be lined up to where I can make my turn. So I'm going to apply the same concepts. When I move this fishtail down, what I want to do is I want to start populating these 2. Now this is even layered, and both of these are even layered. So in this particular case, it's fairly easy. I'm just going to move it like this, and then I'm going to move it up. It saves my fishtail. Whoop. Has to be the other way. So turn it on down here, and now I'm going to make my turn. And turn. Okay, so this is all moved in, and we have even numbers, so I can easily turn this around. I'm going to conserve this fishtail exactly where it is, and in this particular case, all I've got to do is move this down, and then move it back up to join this. So that's what I'm going to do. Turn it down like so. Now I know that this came to here, so what I'm going to do is take this and move it over to here. Now because it's even layered, there's going to be enough to go on. So 30 degrees turn, and it'll move this back up. Kersplat. I've got all of these over here, and so now I can move my fishtail in. So now I'm going to turn this around, and now I'm going to move this in. Position it like so. So you can see how terribly this moves. I almost feel like I've got to pull it apart in order to make it move, and bang, there it is. So I've got my fish. That's why I called it a fishtail. And I've got my petals over here. So what I'm going to do is line this up like so, and now make my turn. And it's really the same process here. Splat. And I'll put this to where it's sliced down here. I'm going to have the same process over here. So I'm not showing you anything different than I showed with the square one. Double turn over here. I've got butterflies here and here. So now I'm going to position this so that I slice down the length of it. And I'm going to slice here so that I slice down the height of it. And turn it again, if I can, and bang. So here's my shield, here's my shield. Line them up so that they're facing the same direction. And this should get this back to the cube form. So I'm just separating those out. So square and square. Okay, that's all fine and well. What about the middle layer? Well, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a lot of back and forth motions. I want to put in this middle layer while keeping this top and bottom layer fine. Now I didn't have to start off with the top and bottom. I only did that because it's easier to demonstrate based on this. But I could have started off with a middle layer. But whichever layer you start off with, you want to have it in a forever primed position while you're working on this, because if you do that, the top and the bottom will never lose its shape. So let's say I wanted to move something here. By keeping it in this primed position just off of it, no matter what I do and how I turn it, I'll always retain my square shape while I'm working on the middle. If I put the middle in first, then just prime the middle and work on the top and bottom. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here. I can't look at it from an aerial view. I have to look at it from a side view. So what do I have? Well, I have a pair over here, so there's 2 over here, and there's 2 over here. So 2 and 2. I have 1, 2, 3 over here, and 1 over here. So what I'll try to do, let's get this back here, is I'm going to take my 3, let's turn this upside down, take my 3, and let's see if I can add 2 more to make 5. Because if I make 5, I can create a fishtail. Just bear that in mind if I can make 5. So let's move this off to the side. And the first question is, can this be turned, and no, it can't. Not like that. So I'm going to move it off to this side and see if maybe it can over here, or is there a corner in the way, and it actually can. Believe it or not, this corner is actually not in the way. I just have to work on spreading it. So if I were to trace this back, well, no. So it can't. So I'm not going to be able to fill that in the way that I want to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it like this. So I've got 2 here, and it is able to move. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put 2 into here. I'm going to fill this up as best I can. As a matter of fact, these 2 are a fishtail. Can you picture that? Here's an edge, corner, corner, edge. So this is a fishtail, so that's okay. I'm going to take this and move it down over here to conserve it. And in the meantime, try to fill this in as much as possible. Well, I've got 2 here and I've got 2 here. So I'm going to line it up as best I can so that I can add 2 more to here while taking this part of the fishtail down to here. All right. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but what that means is turning this and hoping that that's going to translate to have, well, we'll have to turn it like this. So now these 2 can't be turned like that because this corner is in the way. So I'm going to have to try to do these 2. So let's move that potentially into place, and this I think is going to work. So these 2 are going to roll around. Actually, it's going to have to come in like this. These 2 are going to roll around to meet these 2 while this fishtail is put down over here. So now, believe it or not, this actually can move. You can see it's a little off, and that's why this puzzle is so difficult to manage, because to do it, I have to actually gap the puzzle like this in order to make that happen. So this will move this fishtail out, and it'll take these 2, put it next to this one. So turn and bang. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I did not lose my square shape over here. And now my fishtail is down over here, so we're okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what else is down here that has to be used. And the answer is nothing's down here, but I've got 2 over here. So at this top layer, I've got 2 and I've got 4, and that's good news because now each one of these is like a move by 30 degrees. So I'm just going to separate these 2 from the top layer here and move it to the bottom. So let's just kind of move this over. Now I know that this is going to work. I know that this has to be able to turn because it's all even numbered. It's 30-degree turns. So I'm going to take this, move it down here, and splat. Now don't worry about the fact that there's 3 here. This is part of my fishtail. This is just going to come back up here to match these guys. So I'm going to move this over. Now understand, I'm not reinventing the wheel with this. I'm just skewing my perspective, doing the same thing I did here to here. So these 2 are going to come into this top one. So I have to move it to the side, like so. Now I'm going to do another 2R. These 2 will be conserved because they're primed, and these 2 will match up to the top, conserving my fishtail down here. And kersplat. So this over here is a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All I've got to do is move this in line. So let's put this to the side of the fault line here. So we've got this here and this here. Now we'll take this fishtail, move it to the side, and then do another 2R to bring these 2 in line with these guys up here. Now, I invite you, if that didn't make a lot of sense, go back and listen to it again. Okay. Alignment is such a joy with this. Now it's going to fight me on this. It doesn't like the fact that I figured it out. It doesn't like the fact that I'm about to... Now this portion of it, getting that fish, is difficult. Now, all of these, this is like the flower at the bottom. These are all corners, and here's my fish. All of these are here with a tail. So now picture exactly what I'm doing. This and this remains primed, even though it looks like I'm splitting it wide open. But I'm going to turn this so that once again, it'll be bisected right in the middle. which is about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to make our long, dangerous turn, and it'll click right back into place. So now the top and bottom resemble that situation where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 edges and 1, 2, 3, 4 corners on both sides. So I have them face each other, just like we did before, just like this, continuing to have this primed. Okay, just like that. It's got to be in the middle, so like this. And when you think you've got it lined up, go ahead and turn it. Just like that. Okay, when you do that, you're going to get that butterfly formation here. So I'm going to turn this so that it bisects it down the length, bisects it through 2 edges. This will bisect it through 2 corners. That's another way of looking at it, I suppose. And do it again. What you're going to have now is that shield formation. Put it to where both of the corner tails are in line. And now this next one should bring it into the square form. So now you've got it in the square form. Okay, now if you started off with the middles, let's say you got the middles one and you wanted to get the hard one in first and the top and the bottom have yet to be done, then what you're going to do is you're going to prime these two together like this and do the top and the bottom. So if you're to do that, and I do let's say you do a 2R here, like so, notice the top and the bottom will change shape, but this will maintain its square form. So here's my point. If you want to start off by getting the top and the bottom and then you get it, always have it primed when you're working with the middle. If you want to get the middle first and then do the top and bottom, do the middle, prime it, and that way this will maintain its square shape while you get the top and the bottom. And now you have this. So really what you have is you have 2 puzzles in one. You have a 3x3x2 here and a 3x3x2 over here.